Tonight we highlight again the results of the 2021 Progress in International Reading Literacy study, which shows that 81% of grade 4 learners in South Africa are unable to read for meaning in any language. Education experts calling on the Department of Education to produce a coherent and budgeted plan to address learning losses following the COVID-19 pandemic. For more on this, we are joined by education specialist Prof Mary Metcalfe, early childhood development specialist Jennifer Mcquillan, as well as author Victorine Mbong Shu. Good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for your time. We've taken part in 4 Pearls assessments since 2006. What concerns you most about this one, Mary?
Well, Iman, for I think people working in education, researchers and teachers, we're not surprised because we know that we've got a reading crisis. But I want to say that there is some good outcomes that are possible from this wake up to the call to the nation. First of all, we've got an opportunity to build consensus, to mobilize, to say this cannot go on. We have to have our children reading confidently so that they can learn. The second thing that's good is that a lot of work has been done by funders, by the DBE, by academics, looking at what can be the practical ways forward, and there are solutions. And thirdly, as you say, the DBE has come into a lot of criticism for not having what people see as not a coherent plan, an incoherent plan, or the absence of a plan. And from what I can see, the DBE is taking that very seriously, is working on a plan that must, as you say, be time-bound, that must be properly resourced, that must be based on the best research, and that must be monitored going forward so that we don't have to wait for the next Pearls in 5 years' time, but every year we can monitor.
Mary, I can appreciate what you're saying, and I often hear in interviews when we talk a great deal of sympathy for the Department of Basic Education. The results are telling us a story that is critical. The results are telling us a story that doesn't afford us the luxury of going back and looking back at things that can be done. There's an entire group of children, over 80% of them, that are being set up or not being set up for a future that they could have if only they could read with meaning and with understanding. Let's look at then, what this means for not creating or the absence of creating a proper ECD background. And Jennifer, I'd like to turn this one over to you. This is an area that you're an expert in. What are you gleaning from this, and how South Africa and its Department of Education is managing preparing children for a career at school?
So good evening. Thank you so much for having me on this evening. Unfortunately, in the early years, pre-literary skills are simply not harnessed nor nurtured by parents, by our teachers. And it's down to a variety of factors. Our teachers are not trained to actually teach a child how to read. And we're also looking at early years when pre-literary skills are so incredibly important because they form the bedrock, the foundation that a child needs so that they can, when they go to grade 1, then have formal learning happen. So we look at social and emotional development, we look at all these certain pre-math skills, all of that happens where? In the early years. So we need to look at our ECD teachers. We need funding to come in. We need them to be trained properly because they're an incredibly passionate workforce of primarily women who actually do not have the skill set and the knowledge and the training to actually be able to stimulate the children in the classroom enough. But then we also need to get our parents on board as well. Our parents need to be reading to our children from when they're babies.
Can I just quickly follow up on this one? Again, I've heard this 100 times before, that we need to train our ECD teachers, that they need support, that they're passionate and they are there. How easy is it to do? I mean, what would it take, Jennifer, to get either the existing cohort of teachers or a specialist group of teachers together to be capacitated to do ECD training and teaching?
It takes, to be honest, and we need South Africans to work together. We need we need private sector, we need the government, we need NGOs.
Yeah, but what I mean is, Jennifer, and I'm sorry to interject.
Yes.
In terms of an actual program, let's say all the funding and everything is there, to get them capacitated, time frame, how long does it take?
Well, to get a good qualification takes at least 2 years. But it's not just the qualification, it's in the classroom training, because even myself, I'm a qualified teacher. You study for years to get your qualification, but it's in your classroom experience that your own learning happens, and that comes with experience as well. So we're looking at years. So we need to start this yesterday for the children of our future. We have to start. We need to treat this with the utmost of urgency, our earliest crisis in South Africa.
So let me bring it back around to you, Mary. If I'm understanding or, listening with meaning from what Jennifer is saying, we could do this, we could capacitate the right teachers. Experience is the second part of the equation. But if we have 2 years, we've got the opportunity to do something good. We've been a part of this Pearl's, study since 2006. We have known that we have issues, and yet we continue to regress. It makes me think that we don't have enough political support and really, political momentum to get the right teachers trained and to solve this problem right where it begins with the youngest of our learners.
So, man, what I really like about what you're saying is the urgency of this, and that is what needs to grip all of us. I also like the fact that you've got ECD here and parents here, because this is not only something that can be solved by schools alone. In terms of your push for timeframes, you're absolutely correct. We need to be able to sequence actions that are implementable, but that doesn't mean we delay. Early childhood development is about preparing young children to understand that books have meaning. Squiggles on pages can be translated into words. It relates to pictures. While ECD practitioners are receiving more training, they can read to children, they can show them the books. And there's things we can do immediately. And I can see that Jennifer's agreeing. At the same time, parents need to have this urgency to say, what can I do at home? Where can I find reading material in the language that my child is most comfortable with, in order for them to start reading for pleasure with my support? All of the challenges of reading can't be solved by the DBE alone, families alone, NGOs alone, ECD alone. But if everyone is gripped with this urgency and understands the sequencing of steps and that we all have a role to play, we can make progress, and we must make progress, because, as you say, we are losing children every year.
Certainly no one will... Certainly, Prof, no one is going to disagree that this is a collaborative effort, but the DBE has to set the tone, lay the foundation. We've seen across South Africa, working parents who don't have time to do this, and some would say, oh, that's a cop-out, they should make time to read to their children. The reality is that, one of the best opportunities that we have is while children are in class to get the scaffolding that they need, the interest in reading, and to support them through the process. Jennifer, when you hear what the experts are saying around this, and this is an area, that you are interested in, that you are involved in as well, do you think that we are doing enough as we possibly could, particularly from the Department of Education side, to arrest this problem and to prevent another year where we regress when it comes to literacy and numeracy?
We are not. We are simply not. That is what it's all about. And I think this is why we do need to be really urgent and looking at focusing on the early years, so that when our children are better ready prepared for school. I speak as a parent. I have 2 6-year-old sons, and it's a case of, you do find reading, it's not just reading stories, that the bonding, the attachment. It's so reading a story, helping your child nurture a love for lifelong learning and reading books is absolutely imperative, and is simply not up to the teacher alone. But,
right.
There's incidental, like you're driving in your car and you see a street sign, you look at posters, you look at the cereal box, there's so many other ways. Literacy is all around us. It's exciting, it's dynamic, and it's moving. And I think parents can get involved in that. It doesn't have to be only up to the teacher.
Yeah.
And if a child learns to love books from an early age, it will help set them up for school and for formal learning of how to read when they're in grade 1.
In fact, Jennifer, I want to put to you the 2023 background report for 2030 reading panel, and this is in response to the President's target setting that by 2030, in fact, we should have had 100% of our children who are at the age of 10 fully literate and being able to read with meaning. It found that literacy is going backwards. Why are we not cracking the code to the proper preparation for young learners at school? Victorine, your thoughts?
Hi, thank you again, and good evening to everyone. I think for me, I would pin it down to culture. I'll pin it down to the fact that as South Africans, our homes do not have the culture of exposure to books, let alone the culture of reading. You made a very valid point to say the political willpower is not there, but Imam, I want to say the cultural will is not there as well. Parents are not, and before I even carry on, I want to say parents should not misunderstand reading from reading for meaning. Because I battle a lot in my parenting conversations when I say young children cannot read for meaning. Parents go like, my child can read, or my child knows big words, the meaning of big words. So parents actually are misconstruing the meaning of a 10-year-old not being able to read for meaning. And then secondly, I feel like as South Africa, we do not give parents the voice. The government does not give parents the voice. The policymakers do not give parents the voice. The ECD does not give parents the voice. So parents have to have the voice. Parenting activists have to come to the fore and point out the position of parents in the reading and writing for meaning for young children. It is completely lacking in our culture, in our society. If you have to look at parenting activists in South Africa, especially literate parenting activists who are activists towards literacy, you are going to count a handful of them. And I'm not meaning these two hands, I mean one in the entire South Africa of millions of people. So we also have to get people who are standing there and talking for parents, with parents, by parents in our community for these children long before they go to school. Because most parents are now also shifting the fact that they are working, they are earning, they've got to feed the single breadwinners or something onto the teachers, onto the government. It's not the government place to come read to a toddler. It's not the teacher's place to come read to a toddler or entice a toddler with book. So I feel like culture is the number one change that South Africa need. That is why our policies are not working, because policies are waiting at street corners, but cultures are in the bedroom with these children.
So how do we get that collaboration going? And I'll leave the final word to you, Victorine. How do we get that collaboration that you're talking about there happening so that we can alter the future of children in this country?
Yes, my daughter says that a human being is a triangle. You put the person that is in need in the middle of that triangle, and you put your government, your institutions, your policies, your laws at the corners of that triangle, and you will get it right. So basically what I'm trying to say is let the parents be at the center, because the parents are the bearers of these children. The government cannot be in the center. Parents have to take the knife in their hands. They have to own the decision. They have to own the right to education for their children.
And there we'll leave it. Thank you all for your time tonight. This is a conversation that certainly needs hours, days, weeks and months to conduct adequately, but I appreciate you tonight for just sharing your perspectives on this latest report. Education Specialist Professor Mary Metcalfe, Early Childhood Development Specialist Jennifer Mcquillan, as well as author Victorine Mbong Shu.